morning. My name is Yusara Antar, and I am president of the Board of Trustees of Mainline Unitarian Church. It is good that you are here. Our worship team today is the Reverend Dr. Messner, making his last appearance in the pulpit ever at Mainline. Our worship associate is Michael Cohen. Dawn Star Sarah's Borchelt is our Director of Religious Education and Lifespan Faith Development. And our music today is from our music director, current and future, Dr. Vincent Craig, and the MLEC Choir. Anyone joining us for the first time? No? Okay. Yes? Welcome. Glad you're here. Stop by the membership table after service, or coffee hour. There's cake today. There's a lot of cake today. For the rest of you, you're still welcome. Who are we? We are Unitarian Universalists. We believe in loving our neighbors as ourselves, working for a better world, searching for truth with an open mind, using reason to help us explore religious ideas, and granting everyone the right to choose their own beliefs. 3 announcements today. Sign up at the MLEC Environmental Justice Team to take the Plastic-Free July Challenge. Sign up in the atrium after the service. We have 10 other faith communities taking part. 89 folks have signed up so far. You should join the effort. The plastic-eating worms are not likely to save us. Second, you know what plastic-eating worms are? Okay. The cool kids are going to Pittsburgh for GA next week. But if you're here and you'd like to lead a denominational affairs ministry and host a GA session at the church, let Reverend Dave know. Lastly, we need more people to be prideful. Not in a hubris, deadly sin kind of way. We need more people to sign up for the Narberth Pride on Saturday, June 24th. You can sign up, you can make pride rocks. People love getting pride rocks, by the way. It's fun to make. You should come out, and you should also sign up for the Narberth Pride event, or do both. We don't judge. At this last sermon of Reverend Messner, an attempt was made to assemble his interim search team to say goodbye individually. Dilip was so distraught, he left the state. But Craig's here. It was a team of Craig and Dilip and me. Dilip is not with us, but Craig is. Craig, would you like to come up and say goodbye however you'd like?
Do I get to do my announcements first?
No. Did you want to?
Sit back down.
So it's an interesting request to talk about our search, but let me just say that we had a great first candidate. We were all excited, and then we had 2 really mediocre candidates. And but when we zoomed in with Reverend Dave, he brought light to the room, and I was sitting in my kitchen, not with all my colleagues. So we were very excited about him, and we're very happy that he chose us as a congregation. And the second treat I had was that I was asked to chair the transition team. So working with him for 2 years has been a real treat, and I've learned a lot. And I just want to leave you with a couple of things I learned from him, simple things. First thing is trust your minister. Second thing is be open to change. And I hope we can all embrace those things as we move forward into our developmental ministry. And thank you very much, Reverend Dave.
I really am here because of those 3 folks. That's all you get to see, that little lens. And my last memory of you was from when I was 17, which wasn't a minute ago, right? So I'm grateful for it. I thought he was being called on the carpet to explain himself after these 2 years. No, that's good. Let me do my minister's minute, my last minister's minute with you. That might not be true. I'm going to come here join. Let me say that. Next Sunday, I'm going to come and not preach, but I'm going to come hang out with you all. I might even do a minister's minute, and we're going to choose like the filet of GA, like the finest center cut. We're going to get to pick a best sermon, and we're going to share it. We're going to run it here. We're going to have that sermon piece together. But next weekend, next Sunday, we'll all be here together worshiping. That's the thing I wanted to sort of suggest. This is my promotional moment, and it has to do with summer worship. Old, well-worn joke, right? Unitarians are the only folks that God trusts to take the summer off. That's what it used to be. Everyone's going to the Cape. If we're down at the Cape, why don't we just shut the churches in Boston and not worry about it? And I really have pushed against that in so many ways, because most of us don't disappear for the summer and completely step out of our regular lives. I hope we take advantage of summer to have a shift in our lives, but so many of us are here, and the rhythm of coming together every Sunday in the celebration of life doesn't need a break in the same way, and I want to make sure the church is here for everybody. So I encourage you to think of summer not as time off from church, but a shift in rhythm and spiritual posture. And how you craft that together is a really important thing. I also like to think of it as a kind of Chautauqua season, those of you who know what that is, because it's a chance that I do indeed, in all of my churches, kind of get out of the pulpit for a period in there, right? Could you take me down just a little bit? Thank you. And so we try and make it a festival, beginning with the GA of getting a best preacher from around the country from one of the GA sermons, and then through the summer have some guest ministers who might be surprising and new, who might be much beloved, get some in-house ministers who are definitely beloved, and create opportunities for lay preachers to bring forward their wisdom, their stories, their gifts. You'll have all of that this summer. You're going to have some folks inside, some of our inside. Dave, I think Dave and Carrie are both going to be preaching for you this summer. You're going to have some beloved ministers from outside. Andrew Weber, who is a son of this church and not too far away. I've convinced him to come preach with you a Sunday. Libby Smith, who's really most famous for being my LRY advisor. But some of you know her from other contexts. But she was my LRY advisor not 50 years ago. I aged us both too much, sorry, Libby. 35 years ago, something like that. She was my high school youth advisor before she went to divinity school. And now she's retired, but she's coming to spend time with you. From the congregation, we'll have Christy Perry, and we'll have Terry Dixon. Terry, if you don't know, he's finishing his theological degree at Trinity and doing his next theological degree, divinity degree at Harvard, and will be entering the path toward our ministry, and we'll be sponsoring him as his home team. So come here, Terry. There's this whole incredible, as I say, Chautauqua season of people, and take advantage of it. And you can, for the summer, don't tell John I did this, but I'm going to say men don't have to wear ties. Okay? Right? So you can leave your jacket, even your jacket, if you don't want to wear a coat, you can not. It's casual summer. Have fun. Have fun this summer and every year, like in inventing what will we do together. Have fun responsibly, and have fun without plastic. Back to you.
Thank you, Reverend Messner, for bringing to light the work the congregation needs to do for the next stage of our journey. I will cede my time to Reverend Dave so that he may have more time to say goodbye to you. Before I do, please affirm our mission statement with me. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith.
We light this chalice in grateful celebration and appreciation of the journey that we've been on and the promise for the new paths of growth and transformation that await us.
Gorgeous. I thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, bringing beauty to us. I want to call us to worship today. We have so much going on this weekend in my mind and in my heart, but I want to call us to worship today by lifting up the Juneteenth holiday weekend. This is a new thing in terms of getting a day off. And if you work for the church, you now have the day off tomorrow. Do you know that? Don't say Reverend Dave never did anything. He gave your workers another day off, which is what you do when you're running for office. I lift it up and lift up the day we have off because it may be a day in which we can contemplate some of the deeper meaning of Juneteenth. Juneteenth, of course, marks the day when the enslaved people of Galveston, Texas, received word of their emancipation couple years after that fact came to be. I lift this up as a theological point because one of the reasons at least we come to church and we gather in church community and we act for justice of all kinds, is there are people who are awaiting the word that they have freedom. That they've been given freedom, but that the freedom that they embody and that they have by birthright has been recognized. That's the powerful work we can do. I don't think we have the power to grant freedom. I don't think that's the nature of humanness. I think the nature of humanness is to be born free and to live free. And if we're lucky, we have the power to recognize our own freedom. And if we're really lucky, we have the power to deliver to others news of their freedom, their power, their agency, right? And people, so many people, have been waiting too long. The world is waiting for us to deliver the news that they have power, agency, and freedom, and it starts now. It starts now. If you haven't heard that gospel yet, you have power, you have freedom, and you have agency. You make choices that make a difference in other people's lives, and that is absolutely liberating. That is absolutely life-saving. Come, friends, let us worship together, and let us rise in body or in spirit to sing hymn number 6.
Today is the last Sunday that Reverend Dave is in the pulpit, and the first was almost 2 years ago. Oh, now I'm loud. The first Sunday that Reverend Dave was in the pulpit was almost 2 years ago. Do you remember what it was like at church 2 years ago? I remember what it was like at church 2 years ago. At church 2 years ago, when Reverend Dave got here, we had just come back to worshiping in the building. But because none of our children were able to be vaccinated yet, we were also worshiping outside the building, on the front porch. And every week, I started the service out on the front porch, and Reverend Dave started the service in here. And if you were outside, you got to see the parts of the service that were happening inside on a screen. And if you were inside, you got to see me doing the chalice lighting and the Time for All Ages on that screen. And if you were at home, you got to see all of it on your own screen in your living room. So things have changed a lot. We are mostly in this room with some people online because we're all able to be vaccinated. Some of us have had COVID, some of us haven't had COVID. Those of us who had it, some of it was really hard for some of us. Some of it wasn't so bad. But we're in a very different place than we were 2 years ago. And I think probably that's good, right? Probably. I don't know where we'll be in another 2 years, but I'm hopeful that that too will be good. And now I'd like to invite our children and youth to come out to the McGinnis room with me. We're going to be taking apart things from people's houses, like things that they don't need anymore, to see what's inside and to imagine what parts of these might be recyclable and which parts of them might not be recyclable. And I have safety glasses, and I have screwdrivers, and I have clippers, and I have hammers. Hammers are like the last resort. But I'm not going to promise that we won't resort to them at all. So, we'll see you after the service. Yes. But I'm like, why did you? Oh, they weren't working, so you took them apart, and then they didn't work even more. They were.
Each month, we select an offering outreach partner, a charitable organization that we feel is worthy to receive half of the collection we take up during the service. And I don't know if you know this little fact, but since our offering outreach program started at MOUC, we have donated in excess of $300,000 to local charities. The recipient of June's offering outreach is PAR Recycle Works. Now, the PAR stands for People Advancing Reintegration. This is a nonprofit organization. They provide a wide array of e-waste recycling services to companies, individuals in the greater Philadelphia region. The organization recycles monitors, computers, laptops, wire, and many other things. You may have read in the e-notes that next Sunday we are going to be collecting recyclables of that nature. Mike Carpenter is going to have his pickup truck parked in front of the church, and then he'll be collaborating with PAR Recycle Works to recycle the goods. Of equal importance, the PAR part of the organization provides transitional employment to people who are returning from prison. They help ex-offenders become self-sufficient and productive members of the community by building their work history, their skills, their confidence, and improving their chances of reintegration into the society. And in fact, this organization has demonstrated that their employees have substantially lower rates of recidivism than the benchmark rate, so they're doing fantastic work. You know that we have 7 principles, and this organization aligns with 3 of the UU principles. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. They align with principle number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And number 7, the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. If you would like to make a donation online, follow the instructions that you see behind me. 8 principles. There's now an 8th principle. But there used to only be 7, but now there's an 8th. But I'm not as smart as Reverend Dave. He'll tell you about the 8th one. But if you'd like to make a donation, and you don't have your wallet, and you'd like to not use cash, then use the instructions behind me. You can also scan the QR code that's in your order of service. The offering will now be greatly received. Candles of Community is MLUC's ritual of personal sharing and support. We have a busy week of joys and concerns, joys and sorrows that have been shared with me. First, I'd like to light a candle of joy for Jim and Wendy Schmidt on the celebration of their 51st wedding anniversary, and Wendy's 76th birthday, which she'll celebrate on Tuesday. Additionally, Jim and Wendy light a candle for their good friend Dan Litwin, who, after a long course of radiation, has now returned home to Newtown Square on hospice care. So we're thinking of Dan and Linda Litwin and their family. We light a candle of joy for Lisa Mainville and her husband Dave. They are expecting their first child. We light a candle of appreciation for 7 MLUC drivers who took and picked up our younger Afghan student that we're sponsoring, Safa, from pre-kindergarten school every day this year. The drivers are Pam Freed, Kathy Landay, Kathy Lewis, Jane Lamont, Joanne Rose, Kathy Seipel, Debbie Smith. Thank you to all of our MLUC drivers. I'd like to light a candle of concern for Mark Gennaro, very good friend of my brother Harry, who is here today from Chicago. He's one of our visitors. Mark just got diagnosed with brain cancer, so we're thinking of him. I'd like to light a candle of gratitude to Reverend Dave, because that's the elephant in the room. For the last 2 years, you've led us, you've inspired us, you've improved us, you've entertained us greatly. Your passion for what you do and the community has left us in a better place than where you found us. And now we're going to do one of Reverend Dave's favorite things, which is go mobile. So we have microphones, and we'll be running around doing a few more of your joys and concerns. Don't be shy.
What I'd like to tee up, if I could, is an invitation. I like being the elephant in the room. That's one of the nicest. Is he talking about me? As the elephant in the room. I'll tee up. Today is also, we have a lot going on. Today is Father's Day. And so I'm creating just a little space for those who want to speak aloud and remember their father, who might be sitting in the room with you, if you're very lucky, might be someone you have to remember to call today, or it might be of blessed memory. You don't have to lift them up. For those who have more challenged, more difficult relationships with fathers of all kinds, there's space for that too, and you can lift up a word. It's a space, so do it briefly. I'm going to model it, and I was remembering my dad this morning. His name was Howard Messner, and he was loving to me his whole life. Who else would like? If you can raise your hand when I'm kind of in your neighborhood, it helps me.
We have one over here, Dave.
I'll hold.
Sorry. I'd like to say thanks to my dad, who is, he lives with my sister, but he's battling cancer, but he's spent his entire life helping people, so. Wilfredo Feliciano.
I have one over here, Reverend Dave.
My dad, Don Ironside, was an adventurer by nature. We lost him several years ago. He liked to go explore places, and when he found some place he liked, he went again and again and again and took us. One of those was Indian Lake, New York, and one of those was here.
Yes, my father, Cyril Solomons, he passed away a long time ago, but I'd like to think that he's up there doing this. You know, both my parents are, for you know, so I thank him for, I actually appreciate the fact that he actually gave me, introduced me to animals, because he was the animal person, and so he passed it on to me. Cyril Solomons.
My dad fell earlier this week and broke his patella. And I'm going right after service out to the farm, and he's a terrible patient. So please just send your blessings my way. Thank you.
I have two things to say. First of all, my husband and I are newly arrived, and we celebrated our 23rd year together this year, and also our 9th year, is it, John, of a wedding anniversary. And I'm saying that in deference to my father, in memory to my father, because as a matter of fact, I married my father. John and I met each other the year of my father's death, and John loves flowers, and he loves most of the things my father loved. And so I ended up marrying my father, and I wanted to give testimony to that.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. I am Luis Blasco, and I decided that for Father's Day, I will come to this church where my wife spent so many hours, Mimi Collins. And I came with my son, who is also a recent father.
Good morning, I'm Kate, daughter of Michael Allen and the son of Hugh Edward. And we lost my dad 40 years ago this month.
Hi, I think of my father a lot. He died actually 35 years ago, but it's a lot of good memories. But I want to say, as a father, I want to say how thankful I am for our 3 sons.
Hi, good morning. My name's Nini, and I'd like to raise up my husband, Roy, who has been a father to our 5 children and sits with us today with one of them and his brother, Ted. So I love you, and I love the father that you are in our lives and in our children's lives. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda, and I want to lift up my dad, Russell Burford, and he passed away quite a while ago, but I always remember that everybody I ever talked about, and I agree, said he was the sweetest man they ever knew.
I'm Liz Bligan. I want to lift up my husband, who is the best father I could ever think of and ever want for my child. And you know, we're facing the potential of losing him, which is hard for us. I want to lift my own father, who died 33 years ago, in gratitude for his teaching me forgiveness. Dad was deeply troubled, beat his 9 children mercilessly. I've got permanent injuries, as do some of my siblings. But he came to me after he died and asked for my forgiveness, and I gave it to him, and I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders, and I recommend forgiveness.
This is for my daughter, my younger daughter, Allison, who's in a very difficult position, a very difficult spot. And my love and wishes go out to her this morning. And her cat, Fred, short for Willifred.
I'm remembering my father, Ed Crane, who died in 1989 on my mother's 70th birthday. And she considered that a gift because he was really sick for about a year.
I'm thinking of my father, James A. Schmidt Sr., who died 62 years ago. I never knew him very well because he was injured in World War II, spent the rest of his life in the VA hospital, but it's someone I'm thinking about today.
So many memories in a day like this. If you're a father or have played the role of fathering, some of the virtues we might associate with that, and it needn't be biological to give that gift to another, would you lift up your hand? Bless you, friends. And there's still time to step into father roles. Still time to step into father roles. Let's hear that call.
Appreciate all the sharing and for all of the joys and concerns that are left unspoken, some that are too deep for words. We hold you in our hearts. During the month of June, we've been talking a lot about transformation. It's been our theme for the month. And so I selected a reading today from the late Elandria Williams. She was a Unitarian Universalist lay leader within her church or community, and also had national prominence as well. And the title of the reading is called Pushing Forward. If we believe in the promise of our faith, we must continue pushing forward, even if the reality makes us want to give up. There's no one-size-fits-all solution or model. There are many paths forward based on context, relationships, and place. Ideology sparks movements, but relationships are what change organizations and sustain movements. It takes one relationship at a time. In the end, changes to the leadership of an institution happen because of relationships and people pushing. We must place value on the relationships and the need to not leave folks behind in our quest for transformation. Everything comes back to our congregations and covenanted communities. That is where the faith starts and ends. We must embody the changes we wish to see and not just say we believe in the changes. We must live these changes with every fabric of our being. If we believe in the promise of our faith, we must continue pushing forward. And now let's take a moment to silently reflect on those words and that message. Thank you.
I think one of my first preaching coaches, mentor, said to me, when you get into the pulpit, take a moment and breathe and look at the people. I do that, but I do it still, this many years later, self-consciously, as I feel a bit like a lizard, staring brightly at the people, staring back at me. So I laughed. That wasn't the open of my sermon. The open of my sermon is that this is a time of change. Last week we wrote on the wall, writ large, transform. Part of transformation is change. Change and transformation have a relationship that's occasionally fraught. I want to lift up first that it has been a time of change. I appreciate Dawn Starr's Time for All Ages, which was indeed for all ages, because a lot has changed in these past few years. As I've gotten older and I've done more reflective work, being more in touch with the experiences I've had in my own life, I look at moments in my life, years in the past, and from afar can say there were 5 major changes in that year. A birth, a death, an illness, a relationship rupture, a change in financial circumstance, a new start of a new chapter of what. And at the time, I just was doing everything I could to play it cool, right? Be like a duck, paddle like hell, keep your feathers above water unruffled. The danger in that is we don't notice these times of change and the weight that change bears upon our shoulders and in our guts and in our relationships. How many things changed in these 2 years, these last 3 years? I could spend 45 minutes talking about COVID and its disruption in every part of our lives. But put that aside over here for a sec. COVID was happening, and then all the normal life stuff was still happening. There's no relationship between a pandemic and what's going on in your life. All those other things I said. Loss, opportunity, everything becoming different around you. A different person showing up in the pulpit of your church, moving things around in the lobby. What the hey? Right? Change comes. And this exercise, these 2 years together, isn't about the change within, the programmatic change. There are some differences. I'm a different person, for instance, so as your pastor, your preacher, your partner in crime, there are some differences. There are some tweaks and changes in the style in which we might do one thing, which program we choose, which book we read, and indeed, where the name tag holder has been moved in the lobby. That's not the point of it. I wasn't sent here, and I was sent here to move around your stuff for the sake of having your stuff in different locations. This activity, and I'll tell you now, it's an exercise. It's the moment in the film when the light comes on and you realize it was all an exercise. The whole point of this exercise, and hopefully just the moment we all needed it, was to wrestle in a kind of metacognitive, meta-emotional way with how we deal with a changing world around us, changing relationships, changing realities, changing bodies, changing ideas, how we deal with going from 7 to 8 principles. Did that happen? Oh wait, we're going to go from 8 principles to a new second article. What is that? I haven't read that yet. The world continues to change around us, and it's remarkable. We continue to receive news that completely upsets everything. Sometimes that's hard news of loss. We remember people we've lost today. There are 100 stories of sudden news of loss that disrupts and changes everything. But there are 100 stories of the news of emancipation arriving to us just when we think we're going to run out of energy. Good news comes. And we're the people who pay attention to good news. That's not so easy, but one of the theological teachings I want to leave you with, or observances, let me not be so pedagogically grandiose, observances is that a lot of the Christian tradition in which we are rooted was attuned, exquisitely attuned to the idea of defect, this idea of sin, right? And so if you go into our history, the really radical thing that we said was, I think you're paying attention to the wrong thing. And that thing you seem to be so fixated on as the answer to it all, that might not be a thing at all. Our radical suggestion, which we continue to suggest today, is one that people were burned at the stake for. So I don't say it lightly, like it's a trivially beautiful thing. People were killed for it. It's still a heresy. It's still, why are you the strange far-left religion? It's because we say we see beauty. Oh, people are messy. I'm so mad at something. We see beauty. And we know it's a practice to look in a way, to listen in a way, and to work with ourselves in a way that we see beauty amidst chaos, we see beauty amidst complication, we see beauty amidst adversity, not because we're Pollyanna-ish, clueless, or as William James critiques our religious side, happy-minded, though at times we may be those things. We do it because we've achieved what I believe is an essential theological insight, which is, if you see the good, if you recognize the good, to be a little less ableist about it, if you recognize the good deeply, you will grow the good. You have at least a chance to grow the good. If you don't know the good when it bites you on the elbow, you have no chance to generate more of it. So the practice I want together, and to encourage you to continue, is to continuously see what is good and what is beautiful and what is sparkles. Not to be deluded that that is the whole of life, but to realize that we are agents, and if we see it, and if we feed it, we grow it. And so the fact that we're searching the garden, forgive me, we were talking about, at some point I gave a sermon, right? People said, just keep pulling the weeds, it's going to be a good garden someday. Pulling weeds never creates a beautiful garden. Planting flowers does. This is a congregation that has a long history of planting flowers. This is a congregation where in one morning on a Sunday, I can point to a dozen flowers blooming. And that's one of our practices together as a community. We if you see something, say something. I read that on the subway. There's a church meaning of that, right? And it's not an unintended bad. You can say something about that. That's not what I'm talking about. If you see something like, that was beautiful, what you just sang. If you see something or hear something, again, receive something. Let me move away from sensory. If you receive something beautiful and good, it's a gift to recognize. If someone shares a bit of their heart with you in a story about their growing up and their father, if someone shares a bit of their heartbreak with you about their family relationships, and I hope this is a church where we have the safety to do that. If someone shares a sense of loss with you about that which is past, it's a gift, and it's beautiful. What's the good in that? What's the good in lament? The good is the remembering. The good is the tenderness among people who aren't usually encouraged to be tender with each other. How do you, if you see something, say something. It might not always be shouting it out, or occasionally you can. I encourage you. You can say, holy crap, that was great! If I can do it from the pulpit, you can do it from the pew. No, don't do that. That's a bad thing to leave you. John's going to be shocked. Keep yelling bad at them. That's why people in the church house say amen. Say yes. 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 That's what it is. That's why we think it's okay to clap. This is a long-running debate amongst ministers in the churches, right? We got to stop the people from clapping. That's not the point. A beautiful thing happens and everyone's like, are we allowed or are we not allowed? Okay, you have permission. You can clap. Heck, you can stand up and cheer for me right now if you want. doing that when John gets here. That's great. The thing is that the obligatory clap, because it's a social convention in a performance. Because we're not in a performative relationship with each other. We're in a dialogical relationship in which we are co-forming a community, we are co-forming our souls, we are bringing forward the best of that which is within us. And in that, it's not required at all. Forgive me, I brought it up last week because it stayed with me, a memorial service we did, and as I said, we've been doing so many, and Vincent played this piece, like I'm all like composed, and he played a piece that just really shook the rafters and moved me. And I wanted to like cheer, which is weird to do in the middle of a memorial service for one of your people, but that's what it is. And so what are the ways that you can show like the love for something, or that you're moved by something, and how do you do that with your body, your eyes, and your breathing? And I've said that in this sort of distal way as if it's coming from a piano, but I'm talking also interpersonally. When someone shares their heart, their gifts, their hurts with you, how do you show them that you are receiving it? So this is the whole heart of what they train in pastoral relationships. It's not about, hugging them, or, you're in distress, here's $100, or, there are a number of ways that we might respond, but how do you respond with spirit and soul and emotion to receive people, and to receive people a little differently here than we do out in the world? I believe at the heart of that practice of receiving people we talk about right relationship. I want to go beyond right relationship and talk about sacred relationship. To receive the heart and person of another in times of celebration, in times of lament, in times of confusion, and have them know it and feel it deeply. Doing that every day is the way that we weave the bond of covenant, right? I could go into my marriage talk. It's through 51 years. What was the count? We were celebrating it's every day you realize it's okay, I can be who I am with another, and look into the eyes of the one looking at you and realize that they see something good even when you don't. If you see the good, if you recognize the good, and if you're open to receiving the good, there will be more of it. That's simply the practice that we want to do here. I have in mind these 2 years together, and as I say, it's mostly an exercise in us becoming, working out who we are, how we receive, how we love, what the practices are in relation to that as we move some stuff around. That's what we have been doing together. And I've been so honored and grateful with the way you have shown up for this work, the way you have extended yourselves in community with each other that I was able to witness directly with me, which I was able to receive, and I just feel very full of that gift today. We begin these transition ministries by asking questions, like the census taker or something with our, well, tell me, I need some information, what do you like best about, what I heard then that was most important that I picked out were your stories that informed me of a kind of ethical vision for the good life, a set of virtues of the place, not achievements, and you have achieved many things. Michael was telling us about 300,000 gifted away. Last week we were talking about rebuilding this literal church house. We could talk about this young lady who just graduated from pre-K if you want to come to tears. You have accomplished things. The list is long, but this is not the annual meeting with the list of accomplishments to review. It's to notice that the things that were most important to you were the virtues you lifted up. We said this place is powerful because we are generous. This place is powerful, you told me, because we are brilliant. You're not a shy people. You said this place is powerful because we are caring, we are dedicated, we are enduring, and we are socially conscious and have a passion to change the world. These were the virtues you told me about, And then over 2 years, and this is what I want to shine the light on, you showed me again and again. You told me the thing that we treasure is community. I have a community here and I've had it for 50 years and it's like nowhere else. And then a whole bunch of you said, come on over, let me show you what I mean. Come to our house, eat lasagna. Come to our book group, hear what we do. Come see the holiday fair and make a rum ball with Will. The list goes on and on. You said, come, we got to show you something. This is who we are, and this is how those virtues are manifest, and this is what's special about this place. How do we nurture it and grow it into the future? And so, my friends, I leave you simply by saying you are gifted. You are gifted in so many ways of these deep virtues that are life-saving, world-changing, and needed now more than ever. You are ever more gifted at the ability to see the good and take the good to a sort of humane greatness that we all need so much of in this time of change. May you continue to do your work bravely, enduringly, and lovingly. And may you flourish. Amen.
Come and go with me. Hymn number 1018. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Freedom! There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. Freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. They'll be singing. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land.
I'm going to invite you to reach out and take a hand. I'm giving Yasar a little coverage time because she's going to come take my left hand and be part of the circle. And you hold Vincent in your heart because he can't run from the keyboard fast enough to do it, but you're in our circle, my friend. As you go from this place, know that you are loved. Know that I love you. May you be blessed with a good life. From here on out, a good life, a good community, a good heart. Amen.